Alright, also look. Ooh, welcome back to the channel. And guess what? It's fight week. And UFC 314 is going down this weekend live at the Kaseya Arena in Miami, Florida, with the main event featuring the third-ranked featherweight of the world, Diego Lopes, taking on the #1 ranked featherweight contender, as well as the former featherweight champion of the world, as well as the man most considered the greatest featherweight of all time in Alexander the Great Volkanovski. And in today's video, we're going to be going over my main card breakdown analysis as well as predictions on UFC 314's main card, as well as also speedrunning through my early prelims as well as regular prelim predictions as well. So with that being said, without further ado, let's get right in to the video. And if you're new to the channel, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and share so you can help me reach 2,000 subscribers by May. I'll deeply appreciate you. And make sure you join the official UFC Discord, link in the description. Alright, so look, for this video, I'm gonna be speedrunning through my early prelims as well as my regular prelim predictions, and then later getting into more detailed breakdowns once we've reached the main card. Now that that's out of the way, let's begin with the curtain jerker. The first fight of the night, where we've got a bout between Nora Cornoli taking on Haley Cowan, where I've got Nora Cornoli taking the win by unanimous decision. Next up on the card, we've got a middleweight bout between Tresean Gore taking on Marco Tulio, where I've got Marco Tulio by either second to third round KO or TKO. Next up on the card, we've got a flyweight bout between Samu Darji taking on Mark Raporo, where I've got Mark Raporo to take this dub by unanimous decision. Next up on the card, we've got a middleweight bout between Cedric Dumas taking on Michael Olajaychuk, where I've got Michael Olajaychuk to take this dub by second round TKO. Now, heading into the prelim fights, where we've got a featherweight bout between Darren Elkins versus Julian Erosa, where I've got Julian Erosa to win this fight by either second round submission or unanimous decision. Next up on the card, we've got a lightweight bout between Jim Miller taking on the Eminem boy in Chase Hooper, where I've got Chase Hooper to take this dub by either a first or second round submission over Jim Miller. Next up on the card, we've got a women's strawweight bout between the #3 ranked Vinra Jandiroba taking on the #1 contender in Yang Xiaonan, where I've got Yang Xiaonan winning this fight by a unanimous decision. And now last, but certainly not least, for the prelim fights, where we've got a bout between the 15th ranked Dan 50K Ige taking on Slenderman himself in Sean Woodson, where I'll be taking Dan 50K Ige by either a second to third round KO or TKO against Sean Woodson. And now for the main card, where we've got a light heavyweight matchup between Dominic Reyes versus Nikita Krylov, making his return after a 2-year layoff. And look, if y'all have been watching the channel for a little bit, then you should have already seen my other breakdowns before. And you should already know that I'm always going to be drilling this saying: never bet on a fighter coming off of an extremely long layoff. And look, I will always stand by that fact, but for this fight, I've gotta make an exception. Because you see, going into this matchup, Nikita Krylov's wrestling as well as his grappling are, without a shadow of a doubt, his biggest attributes here. And while they are indeed effective and often underrated, I do think that Dominic Reyes does possess some of the best takedown defense in the light heavyweight division. I mean, his ability to stay on his feet and quickly recover from takedowns could neutralize Krylov's primary path to victory here. However, I do expect Krylov to push an extremely aggressive pace early, which could create a lot of openings for him to land some clean shots on Dom. I mean, his striking is solid, and if Reyes does overcommit in the exchanges, Krylov does have the ability to land some counter shots super effectively. Taking that into account though, Dominic Reyes' durability has been a major concern in recent years, which has played a humongous role in his previous losses. I just don't necessarily think his chin will be able to hold up against Krylov, honestly. I mean, his last 2 fights, though they were wins, were against lackluster competition in Dustin Jacoby and Anthony Smith. And before that, he was on a 4-fight losing streak due to KO and TKO losses. I just think going into this fight, Nikita Krylov may have an edge in durability as well as speed, making him a real big threat in this matchup. And so given those factors, I've got Nikita Krylov to win this fight by either a first or second round TKO. Next up on the card, we've got one of the most critically acclaimed matchups of the night, and one that I am extremely excited to watch unfold. The featherweight bout between Thug Nasty Bryce Mitchell versus Gene Silva. And look, y'all, to make a long story short, I 1000% believe that Bryce Mitchell will find early success with his wrestling. I mean, he's definitely capable of getting Silva down, and when he does, he'll be able to control the pace and maybe even rack up an extreme amount of control time. I believe that that is his path to victory. But the thing is, Gene Silva doesn't stay down. He stays composed, works his way up, and once he gets back up to his feet, the threat of the danger flips immediately. Because look, Gene Silva's just got this scary ability to find your chin, and it's almost like a built-in chin connection radar. No glaze. And even when he's behind or, defending takedowns, he's gonna eventually reset and start to land those shots. I mean, you can be winning the moments or even rounds, and the second he sees that shot, he's gonna explode, and that's usually all it takes. I mean, look, take his fight with Charles Jourdain, for example. He was getting taken down and had to deal with the pressure, and still became the first to knock Charles Jourdain out. And, watching that fight, it really just proved that Silva doesn't necessarily need the fight to be clean or go his way in order to find that knockout blow. So, yeah, while I am rooting for Bryce Mitchell and hopes he proves me wrong, I just believe that his wrestling pedigree just won't be enough for Gene Silva. That is why I've got Gene Silva by second round KO or TKO against Bryce Mitchell. But please, for the love of God, Bryce, please wrestlefuck and crotch sniff Silva to a win. I beg of you. That barking is extremely cringe. Now, next up on the card, we've got Yair Rodriguez stepping in against the long-awaited UFC debut of Patricio Pitbull. I get that everyone's been wanting in the UFC for years. But you see, truthfully, I'm leaning heavy toward Yair on this one. And you see, I think for Pitbull, this just feels a lot like a case of too little, too late. I mean, he's had a legendary run in Bellator, no doubt, but the timing's just off. And, he's older now, and at 37 years of age, I don't think his durability will hold up at the elite level anymore. And I think the biggest X factor going into this fight is just how explosive Yair Rodriguez is right out of the gate. I mean, people forget how chaotic and dangerous he is in the first round. Like, I'm talking about the speed, the angles, the creativity. It just overwhelms guys. And if you're coming in with a grappling heavy game plan, then good luck trying to implement it early, because you're usually too busy defending your chin from spinning moves like spinning back fists and cartwheel kicks to shoot for takedowns. And I think that's the key, honestly. Guys like Pitbull usually have to weather that early storm before they can really get into their game, but I don't even think he really makes it that far, honestly. I see Yair hurting him even before wrestling becomes a realistic option. I just think that the pace as well as the pressure are going to be too much, too fast, too soon. Now, sure, if this fight drags on to the later rounds, then Yair does have the tendency to fade and Pitbull might be able to find some success there, but I don't think we'll really get to that stage, honestly. I think Yair shuts it all down early and makes a statement with either a first or second round TKO finish or unanimous decision victory. P.S. regardless of a win or loss on both ends, I think the Lopes fight should be the one to make next, yo. Like, come on, bro. They got beef. Make it happen. And now for the co-main event of the evening, where we've got the highly anticipated showdown, as well as the fight that a lot of us are calling the people's main event. The lightweight bout between Paddy the Baddy Pimblett versus Iron Michael Chandler. And look, y'all, I've already made a detailed 13-minute breakdown on this fight, thoroughly going into depth on why and how this fight goes on the way I think it does. So if you haven't already, go check it out for a more detailed run-through. But to make it short and sweet, for this fight, I will be going with Iron Michael Chandler to get the job done this Saturday night. I just think that Iron Michael steps into this matchup bringing in an entirely different level of not only experience, but explosiveness that Paddy the Baddy simply just hasn't encountered yet. I mean, we're talking about elite tier attributes here. Like, I'm talking about the powerful hands, explosive wrestling, as well as the relentless forward pressure. All of which makes this a humongous leap in competition for Paddy the Baddy. And I think that gap will show in Paddy the Baddy's striking defense. I mean, it has been exposed upon multiple times before, and he does tend to leave his chin up in the clouds and has been clipped and outworked by far less dangerous opponents. And against somebody with, Chandler's speed as well as knockout ability, that's a glaring weakness that I do believe will be exploited upon very, very quickly. Now, Paddy does have a slick submission game and does thrive in those wild scrambles, but I just think that Chandler's wrestling pedigree as well as his top control should be able to neutralize most of that. I mean, he's not a Bobby Green who's gonna trip on a calf kick and get his head popped off. Like, come on now. Realistically, I see Chandler overwhelming Paddy early, applying that pressure, that explosiveness, and landing the cleaner shots and ultimately just outworking Paddy altogether. That is why I've got Iron Michael Chandler by either first or second round KO or TKO against Paddy the Baddy Pimblett. And now for the main event of the evening, where we've got a clash for the vacant featherweight championship. The highly anticipated bout between Alexander the Great Volkanovski versus Diego Lopes. And look, similar to the Paddy the Baddy versus Michael Chandler fight, I've also made a thorough, detailed breakdown on this fight, going into depth on how and why it plays out the way it does. And again, if you haven't already, go check it out. But to make a long story short, I've got Diego Lopes not only coming out on top in this fight, but also becoming the new featherweight champion of the world. I think going into this matchup with Volkanovski, Diego Lopes brings that aggressive, finish-oriented style, builds upon his explosive striking as well as his underrated submission game that's as opportunistic as it is extremely dangerous. I believe that he's a threat in every position and, thrives in the chaos, pushing that relentless pace while also looking to end the fight from the first exchange. Volkanovski, on the other hand, is, the more calculated technician with, his fight IQ being his strongest attribute. Now mix that in with his crispy boxing, his elite range control, as well as his world-class takedown defense, and it's no wonder we all call him the greatest featherweight of all time. But at 36 years of age and coming off 2 consecutive KO losses, brutal KO losses to be exact, there are legitimate concerns about his declining durability going into this fight with Diego Lopes. But look, while I do think that Volk's experience as well as technical edge might keep things competitive early, I believe that Diego Lopes's momentum, his youth, as well as his killer instinct will eventually start to take over. I think that Diego Lopes has, a way of just dragging his opponents into unpredictable, high-risk exchanges, and that's where his explosiveness really starts to shine. I see him overwhelming Alexander the Great in those moments and closing the show with either a second to third round KO or TKO, officially ushering in Diego Lopes' era as the new undisputed featherweight champion of the world. But that's all I've got to say for this video. Let me know in the comment section below, what are your guys' picks for each and every one of UFC 314's fights on the card? And who do you guys have for the co-main and main events? For the co-main, do you have Iron Michael Chandler or Paddy the Baddy Pimblett? And for the main event, do you have Diego Lopes or Alexander the Great Volkanovski? Let me know in the comment section below. But that about wraps up the video. Hope you guys enjoyed. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and share. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Ciao.